It's so rich and so sweet. God leads his children along. There's no one sees. God leads his children along. Some through the water, some through the flood, some through the fire, all through the blood. Some through the pearl, but God gives the song to the sun season all the day long. Through the mountain, the sun shines so bright, that leads the dear children along. In the valley, darkness of night, that leads the dear children along. The waters, some through the flood, some through the fire, and all through the blood. Some through the way, that's all people say to prove that leads your children along. Your gaze return from it all proves that leads your children along. Walkers through the flood, some through the fire, but all through the blood. Some through the world, but God gives the song in the season all the day long. Away from the mire, away from the clay, God leads his dear children along. Away up to glory, eternity, God leads his dear children along. Some through the flood, some through the fire, but all through the blood. God gives the song in the season all the day long.
Alright, you can see it. Don't forget, we got there's offering plates around and we're talking to the men as we have our men's meeting and trying to figure out what the next step should be. Maybe you start passing offering plates and something out, but we'll figure it out. But just keep up with the good work before then. 173. 173.
Every blessing from my heart to sing that grief. Bring the mercy, never ceasing, conquer souls all Father's free. Keep me some melodious song, of my flaming temple song. Praise the mountain, praise the throne, and the very King and Lord. Here I rise, my Ebenezer, ever light of the cross. We have riches to our right. We have strength, of God. Here he rests, wonder, Lord, if you will believe that God hear my heart and take a seat, live for thy course.
Oh, we're ran across a short little video this week as we're getting back into the swing of things. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was encouraging. And so it's just a couple minutes long, but we're going to show that real quick. Yeah.
Turning fear into faith, quarantine into connecting, downtime into precious time. Relationships were strengthened unexpectedly. And another thing changed. People all over the world, including friends, neighbors, co-workers, and families, became more open than ever before to hearing the gospel of hope. The pandemic shook us, but it did not crush us. We shared good times and bad times virtually. We realized what is truly important in this world: each other. The church rose up to help those who need it, and to be the hands and feet of Jesus during this difficult time. We found out we are stronger together. As life returns to normal and things reopen, we'll never forget how important our relationships are and the value of spending time with loved ones in person. As we're able to gather again face to face, think of every person in your life, at every age and every stage. They're waiting on an invitation to church from you. Because in every way that God connects us, we are stronger together now more than ever.
Earlier today, you know that we're in the midst of our summer. So we're going out every Thursday to our Saturdays. We got to get out there. I know it's still going to be a little bit different. We're being cautious, being careful, more or less, unless we actually run across somebody leaving tracks in different places. Anybody can do that. Joel can put track on it anywhere. Anybody can leave a track anywhere we've got. I don't know what we're down to, probably 700. But we're getting out. They're back there on the table. It's encouraged to continue to talk to your neighbors and friends, even if you, like I said, put them on windshields at the grocery store or somewhere. I thought that was encouraging. 162. 162. Bibles. Hold them up. Say, this is my Bible. My holy word.
My holy word.
I can be who it wants me to be.
I can be who it wants me to be.
My mind is alert.
My mind is alert.
My heart is receptive.
My heart is receptive.
I will not leave the same.
I will not leave this thing.
All right, 2 Corinthians, I'm sorry. 2 Corinthians, chapter number 5. We are in our last installment of neighborhoods and nations. Last week we looked at neighborhoods. This week we're looking at nations. Missions conferences just 3 weeks away. 4 weeks away, I guess, technically. And so a month away, so get ready for that. I know I told you on Wednesday night, it's on.
Okay. Not getting anything. Okay. Yeah.
And so I know I told you on Wednesday night, the next Sunday and the Sunday following will probably be the two of the life-changing messages, if we can grasp the concept, just even if we begin to, and change our lives. Being different makes a difference. We're supposed to be peculiar people, all of that wonderful stuff. But it's not what we typically, if you're like me, if you grew up in church in any way, it doesn't, I don't know that it was portrayed correctly. And I'm not saying that to be mean or anything. But the Bible commands us to be different, but not looking like a bunch of clowns. And so the next 2 weeks, after this week, obviously the next 2 weeks, get your friends, your family, your neighbors, get anybody here. I mean, if you got to bridle and pay them, take them out to eat if they're willing to go out to eat. If not, tell them you'll deliver food to them. But whatever it takes to get them here, get them here. It will change anybody's life if you grasp the concept. But today, like I said, we're in our last installment of Neighborhoods and Nations. Every local church has a mandate to share Jesus. How we do that depends on our motivation. I think it was a few weeks ago we talked about blackmail, beating each other up. There's self-deprecation, whatever it might be. Those are all bad motivations. They'll eventually fail you. Eventually you'll realize that just because, oh, you're my dirty, rotten, filthy sinner, that's, yes, you need to realize that you get saved, but you don't live there. That's a horrible motivator. Taking someone out behind the woodshed, although that might be okay every once in a while, and that really is a terrible motivator. Listen, there's a reason why and I'm not saying at the age, but there is a reason why at a certain age you don't spank anymore. Because it doesn't work. It's a bad motivator. It's a tool. Yes, the Bible tells us to, punish children when the time is necessary. But how many, it's a second one time it doesn't work anymore. Why? Because as we get older, as we mature physically, it's a horrible motivator. The same is true spiritually. It's a horrible motivator, and yet so many times people live the Christian life, and that's their motivation, like they're trying to appease God. Listen, there's all kinds of religions all over the world that they're trying to appease their God. And so they throw their baby into a river, or they put their baby on an altar and burn it, or climb upstairs on their knees, thousands of stairs. They're trying to appease God. And so some of it is the name that we're going to appease Christ. Listen, it's a horrible motivator. How we share Jesus, how we proclaim Jesus is, we've heard it said, that, you're 90% of what you say never comes out of your mouth. And so is your actions meeting up with your words. How we proclaim Jesus, both in our words and in our actions. How we do that depends on our motivation. Look at here, 2 Corinthians chapter number 5, verse number 14. For the love of Christ constraineth us, because we thus judge that if one died for all, then we are all dead. Let's pray. Lord, we come before you this morning, Lord, and again, as we conclude this series this morning, Lord, I just pray that you be honored, you be glorified, that you speak to us, and we would find the proper motivation as we go out, both into the and within nation. Proclaim you. Bless all these things, your name. Amen. For the love of Christ constraineth us, because we thus judge that if one died for all, then we were all dead. I'm hoping that you'll follow me. This ties in to Galatians. We are no longer under the law. Why? Because we're dead. If you remember that message. Now we get to go out and we get to tell everybody else. Why? About the love of Christ. Listen, yes, we were all sinners. Or we still are. We need Jesus. We need everything that He provides for us. And we were completely helpless, completely destitute, completely deprived. Friends, how you say it. And while you need to get there to get saved, you don't ever need to stay there. You have to, we have to realize that the love of Christ constrains us. Why? When that magical age happens and corporate punishment no longer works on a child, how does the child still behave? Hopefully between the time that was born and the time when that happens, you instill with that life that they love their parents, that they love their grandparents, that they love their neighbors, that they love their friends. Why? Because if they don't, then you're going to be in deep trouble. Love constrains us. Love motivates us. As husbands and wives, listen, we're going to take each other off every once in a while. That just happens. We're human. What? Hey! Grab it, I apologize. You don't want to point out right now. But what keeps you still obeying? When they do something simple as, 5 minutes ago you had the biggest knockdown, drag-out fight of your life, and 5 minutes later one of you asks you to go get the mail or go get the laundry or go do something. Listen, it's love. That's the only motivation that's going to sustain life. Bribery won't. Fear won't. Love. Why? Because any other motivation, it won't last, and it always ends in the same. I think I told you, 80% of kids that grow up in church, when they graduate from high school, they'll leave. Why? Resentment. Follow the rules, follow the rules, follow the rules. Because I said so. Because if you don't, they never learn love. Go over to Acts. Chapter number 1. Acts chapter number 1. Verse number 7. And he said unto them, it is not for you to know the times of the seasons which the Father has put in his own power. But ye shall receive power. After that the Holy Ghost is come upon you. Ye shall be witnesses unto me both in Jerusalem, and in all Judea and Samaria, and to the uttermost part of the earth. And when he had spoken these things, while they beheld, he was taken up, and a cloud received him out of their sight. And while they looked steadfast toward heaven as he went up the hill, two men stood by them and waited there, which also said, Ye men of Galilee, why stand ye gazing up into heaven? This same Jesus, which was taken from you into heaven, shall so come in like manner, as you have seen him go into heaven. The gospel, the good news, the death, the burial, the resurrection of Jesus, the story of salvation. There's so many different ways that we can label it. Is how Jesus reached the world and never left Israel. Think about that for a second. Israel is, I don't think it's the smallest nation in the world, but it's definitely not the biggest. But he never left that small swath of earth. Yet he reached the world. So many times we think, well, we're not very big. We're not very important. We're not very wealthy. And we can make all kinds of excuses. We can't change the world. Here, as we leave what is referred to as the Gospels in the New Testament, we move into the book of Acts. The book of Acts is how the church saved the world. A stationary church is a disobedient church. You're not growing, you're dying. And that's true at anything. Stationary church is a disobedient church. Can I tell you, keeping up with the status quo is being disobedient. How many churches, and you just think in your mind, how many churches you know, they finally reach the point where they're happy. So they just quit. We're just going to keep the status quo. Can't keep the status quo. So many times we think, I am the Lord, I changed not. I made stupid statements when I was younger that, I'm not going to change. But the truth of the matter is, every time that someone comes to the church, joins the church changes. It has a different dynamic. I'm not saying doctrinally, but I'm saying practically, the church changes. Why? Because we're all members. So afraid of change. We're going to keep the status quo. Look at verse number 1 of chapter number 1. The former treaties I have made, O Theophilus, of all that Jesus began both to do and to teach. What God started, He's going to continue. Flip over to the end of Acts. Acts chapter 28. Preaching the kingdom of God and teaching those things which concern the Lord Jesus Christ with all confidence, no man forbidding him. And it ends. It's done. That's it. That's all she wrote, literally. He wrote. That's all. Why does it end that way? Because the book of Acts is that while the written portion is over with, we're still in what we refer to as the church age. The church age is over with. What God started in one is still going on today. What He started. What? He that started a good work in you will what? Will be faithful to the day of completion. So it's over with. The church is made up of what? People. We all know it, but in verse number 8 it says, you shall receive power. It's a promise, it's not an option. Listen, I've done it. You've probably done it. You've at very least been around people that have done it. But we got to pray for the power of God. We got to pray for the power of God. don't have to. Ye shall receive power. It's a promise. You got the power. You don't have to pray for it. You just got to figure out how to access it. Sin, disobedience, laziness, lethargic, the list could go on and on, will keep you from accessing the power, but you have it. They came out with a new Mustang. It's an electric Mustang. Trying to convince the Colts to buy it. Wouldn't let me borrow it every once in a while. It's an electric Mustang. 0 to 60. 2.3 seconds. I don't know what their Mustang does. It ain't that fast. It's got like 100 horsepower. And with you don't understand electric motors right now. It's not, you got to build up to it. It's got all the power. It's got more power than you need. You kill yourself. You're not careful. Well, that's not going to do you any good at 430 on 140. Why? Because you can't access the power. You've got the power. It's not an option. You shall receive power. You see, and after missions conference, we're going to look at, for a few weeks, stewardship. God, listen, God gave you His power. You. Listen, if you're not doing what God asked you to do with His power, you're a bad steward. I hate to break it to you, but that's a serious thing. See, we don't like to think of it that way. Well, we looked at it the other week. The gifts and callings of God are without repentance. If God gave it to you and you're not using it, that's a serious thing. God says you're going to be witnesses unto me. So if you're not witnessing in the places that God asked you to witness, whether here or abroad, that's a serious thing. Most people. I don't know that Brother Ron falls into this category. I don't know that I necessarily fall into this category very often. But I'm sure to some extent. Most people are uncomfortable in situations they're not familiar with. I had to take a psychological evaluation once in my life. I'm hypervigilant. You know, there's 7.5 billion people in this world. Do you know that everybody's got a mental disorder? Ain't none of us right. Hey, it's called sin. But I'm hypervigilant. For those of you that may not know what that means, is I think that everyone's out to get me, or to get the people I love. I'm paranoid. But like my grandpa says, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not after you. That's why we're here. Most people are uncomfortable when they find themselves in unfamiliar situations. You want to see me uncomfortable? Make me have my back to the door when I'm around. You can't see who's after me. I go to a restaurant, I do it. I don't make a big deal about it, but it's my preference to know I want to face the exit. When we go out there and we share Jesus, what are we doing? We're putting ourselves in a situation that we don't have a lot of control over. We're probably uncomfortable in around people we're not familiar with. Listen, that's human nature, but that doesn't excuse us. accountability comes when you start thinking that you're superiors. Listen, that's you can call it whatever you want, but that's the root of racism. Well, I'm surrounded by this group of people that I'm comfortable with, and that person doesn't make me comfortable. And so, because they don't make me comfortable, I think I'm better than them. And listen, that unfortunately comes out in all kinds of different ways. It can come out economically. It can come out nationally. Listen, I love America. I'm not going to pretend that I don't. I love America. But listen, hey, they're talking about singing the Black national anthem at football. Black is not a nation. Listen, I understand we're all one race. We all got different levels of pigmentation, but we're all one race. Okay? And so, if you're not American, it's okay not to be American. Okay? Love your country. Listen, if you're Chinese, you may not agree with everything your government does. Hey, I'm American. I don't agree with everything my government does. It's okay. Go to Canada. You're Canadian. You better love Canada. If you don't love your country, then don't be there. Go to a country that you do love. But when we start thinking that we're better than somebody, hey, there are certain privileges, yes, that you get for being an American, which unfortunately have the potential of sliding away, it looks like. But I'm no better than a Chinese person. No. I'm no better than a Canadian. You're going to think after Canada, they teach you 10 organs. And so when we start thinking of ourselves better, then we get ourselves in trouble because, listen, it is rooted in fear. Because we're uncomfortable, we decide that we need to push someone else down because we're afraid. What do you have to be afraid of? As a Christian, what do you have to be afraid of? See, I gave you all kinds of examples, and be against physical prejudice and social prejudice and economical prejudice and educational prejudice. Why in the world are we okay with social prejudice? I mean, spiritual prejudice. Romans chapter number 10. Romans chapter 10, verse number 15. And how shall they preach except they be sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of them that preach the gospel of peace, and bring glad tidings of good things. Matthew chapter number 28. We know it's Matthew chapter number 28. We're going to start at verse number 16 on it. And then the 11 disciples went away into Galilee unto a mountain where Jesus had appointed them. And when they saw him, they worshipped him, but some doubted. Jesus came, spake unto them, saying, All power is given unto me, in heaven and on earth. So ye therefore teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Ghost, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I have commanded you, and warning you always, even unto the end of the world. Listen, he spent 3 years investing. He died. He rose. All of just, and it played out exactly the way that he told them it was going to happen. I forget the exact passage, but Jesus is talking to Peter, and it's late. It's late in his earthly ministry. Jesus makes this statement: "When thou art converted." Think about that for a second. Jesus is talking to Peter. When thou art converted. Listen, I realize that could mean all kinds of different possibilities. But one of the possibilities is that Peter was saved yet. We follow Jesus. He's one of the top 3 when you're converted. I realize it could, you quit taking like the world. I realize that there are all kinds of possibilities, but he made this statement. But when the light bulb finally turns on, the light bulb finally turned on. That person that acted in fear because he thought he was better than somebody else and decided that he was going to chop someone's head off and only got out of the ear. He was afraid. He followed a great distance off. When he was confronted, he swore, cursed, used foul language, took God's name in vain, denied him. He acted in fear. That fear, when thou art converted, is the one that stood up on the day of Pentecost. It all begins to make sense. The last thing that Jesus said on this earth is going to all over. There's a book. I say that the last words of saints and sinners, they've got at least volume 2 now. Got some interesting stories there. Voltaire's, the last words of Voltaire are in there, the last actions of many people, well-known Christians, well-known, what we refer to as atheists. If I remember right, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, which was Voltaire's most famous apprentice, on his deathbed, he was trying to get, again, relate the story, you can read it, he was trying to get away because his feet and legs were on fire, that he literally drove the hairs in his head. He drove them into the head wound. That's how hard his head was hitting the head. The last actions and last words of somebody are usually poison words. There's 4 actions that we see here. It says go. Listen, that means you got to go outside your comfort zone. You got to leave your comfort zone. Listen, if you want to grow, you got to leave your comfort zone. The Bible says work out your own salvation. When you bodybuilding, when you build muscle, you got to tear. When you tear, you go outside the constraints of what you can do. The key is not to go too far out. And then as your muscles heal, it feels bigger and stronger. But you got to go outside your comfort zone. You're never going to grow as a Christian if you're constantly living in your bubble. I know all kinds of good, well-meaning, probably more good Christians than I am. But they live in their bubble. They go to church. They leave church, they go home and they eat. And they come back to church on Sunday night and they go home. And if they could, they work from home, and maybe they are now. And then Wednesday night they come back for prayer and they go home. And Thursday night they go out and put out tracks and they come home. They never leave the bubble. They're not, listen, you got to go into the world. You can't be of the world, but you got to go into it. You got to leave your comfort zone. Teach. Well, you got to mold and you got to shape. You got to teach people. Big debate on whether or not they're going to do school this fall or not. I'm thankful for the technology that we have, and I'm thankful that we're allowed to, and that we can put the service on the internet. People can watch us and learn about us and things like that. But it ain't the same. Have you realized that? When we were stuck in the shutdown, you realize that it's not the same. Being here is different than watching online. And listen, teaching online, yeah, I'm sure it's possible, and they can do it. But you can't teach all that well mobile. You can't mold people. You might be able to give them information, but you can't mold people. Baptize them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. You've got to give them a new identity. When you get saved, you get a new identity. Spiritually speaking, you were an outlaw. Devil's after you. You're going to spend a lifetime in hell. And so what does Jesus come along and do? He gives you a new name, a new social security card, a new driver's license, a new credit card. He gives you a new identity. All the while, you get to remember God. Listen, when you're outside your comfort zone, molding people, using your new identity, trying to give them a new identity. Listen, I have no idea what it's like to be a criminal. I can only imagine what it would be like when you finally get your new credentials and you step out into the real world, outside of the bubble again for the first time. Wonder what's going through their mind the first time they swipe that credit card. First time a police officer sees them. I would assume that there's some fear. Listen, we've got a new identity. And yes, listen, we're running for our lives spiritually against the devil. He's chasing us. We got to give us a new identity. Now we can go out and tell other people about it. God's with you. Remember who you're afraid of. He can't get you anymore. The boogeyman can't get you. Why don't Christians do what God asks them to do? Why are they horrible stewards of the power that God gave them? See, we want the privileges of being His Son and all of us. We want the power, but we don't want the responsibility. We love all the accommodations that Christianity gives us, but we don't like the responsibility. We don't want to be president. I mean, just think about, you get to carry, there's all kinds of things that you get to do. We get to carry around the nuclear football. All the launch codes of all the nuclear weapons and all the military in America. If one button, you can launch them all. See, we love that power. For the idea of that power. We don't like the responsibility that it takes to be able to have that power. We probably don't fully understand all the responsibility that it takes. I mean, President Trump, he's 330 million people. He has to answer to. Answer for. Most of them don't like it. Really some of them. You know, if we want the power, we want the prestige, we want to live in a giant White House, we want to fly around in Air Force One and 3-1 and get to ride around in essentially a tank. And all of those things, we don't have the responsibility of having to do what's best. Even when what's best for them isn't. One other knock on the door, hey, can I tell you about Jesus? I don't want to hear it. Listen, I'm going to do what's best for you. In love, in kindness. I'm not talking about being mean or belligerent or anything like that. And listen, I have to do what's best for you because I care about you, even if you don't want to. We don't want that responsibility. Makes us uncomfortable. Matthew chapter 24, verse 14. And this is the gospel of the kingdom, shall be preached in all the world, for a witness unto all nations. And then, again, shall come. I'm not trying to be super spiritual, but between the pandemic and the protests and political nonsense going on, but let's just be honest. How many of you want God to come? My hand is up. I can't. I'm not saying we're going to commit suicide, but I say fool you. The Bible says the gospel has to be preached in the entire world. You want to get out of here? Preach the gospel to the entire world. That's why we've got to go into all the nations. I mean, the world's messed up. Sometimes I guess they've got missions conference coming in about a month. I read this. Hey, what's a missionary? And we all say, initially we think missionaries only do some one country. Well, we're all missionaries. Yeah, you've heard all of that, but I read this one, and not that any of those are wrong. Missionary is someone who crosses a boundary to share Jesus and make disciples. Missionary is someone who crosses a boundary. Listen, that could be an economic problem. Listen, you go out here to the stoplight. If you go straight, you're going to run into some houses that don't look very nice. I'm just being honest with you. I'm not saying they're not nice. I'm just saying they don't look as nice as if you go out here. Instead of going that way, you go that way. Listen, these houses over here are nicer than these houses over here. But you got to go to both of them. That's an economic boundary. It doesn't have to be a state line or country line. Missionary crosses some type of boundary, economic, social, political. You've heard me say it, and we know that it's true, but we don't like it. Listen, the only hope that Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders and the list could go down. The only hope they have is Jesus. And listen, the people who love Jesus don't particularly like or identify with the cultural and social standings that those people have. I guarantee it. I neighbors. Probably should love them. We're not even very comfortable. Listen, not even very comfortable walking up to Bernie Sanders and giving him the gospel, even though that's exactly what he needs. It's the only thing that can help him. Crossing the political boundary. See, there's local boundaries, there's cultural boundaries, there's national boundaries. You gotta cross lines. Yeah, I worded that on purpose. You gotta cross the line sometimes. See, we're so caught up in you being good Christians that we never break the rules. Sometimes you gotta cross the line. I encourage, I make it as easy and as simple for us to socially distance and do church online. I never really want to pick up. If you wanted to come, the entire time, I still been putting tracts in people's doors the entire time. Yeah, it's breaking the rules. I'm sorry, it's breaking the rules. But I was me and him. You got to make God rather than man. Sometimes you got. You got to make yourself. It's uncomfortable. You got the Sunday school teachers. You guys know I gave you a piece of paper that allowed you to do whatever you needed to do. I'm thankful we didn't have to use it. We're all fighting great games when we get to fight the government. Listen, we get to cross lines every single day of the ocean. Walk across the street and put a track in your neighbor's door. You can't even talk to them. Their car's in the driveway. Put it on the windshield wiper. Better yet, if they're parked in the street, that's public land. Why? Because we love them. Because we love them. The last part of verse number 14, and then God's not going to keep us here any longer than if you're still here, it's because you still have the opportunity to get someone in there. I told you earlier we got the great commandment. Love the Lord thy God and the neighbor as yourself. These are the two great. The Great Commission, go ye into all the world. But here we've got the great promise. You want to get to heaven? Get someone else to heaven. It's an act of worship. Look at Matthew number 28, verse number 17. And when they saw him, they worshiped. Giving the gospel to somebody else is an act of worship. See, we think we have to come to church to worship. You should be worshiping God. Listen, the Bible says what? Pray without ceasing. Truth of the matter is, we should be worshiping without ceasing too. I realize that there's different attributes of worship. We should always be doing one of them. Preaching is one attribute of worship. Either listening to it or preaching yourself. Listen. Ladies, you want to preach? Go preach. You can go preach. You can't pastor. But you can go preach. The Bible commands you to. Prayer is another way of worship. Praise even in their doubt, he was still giving the power. I know I said it earlier, but we don't think we can do it. And humanly speaking, we can't, but it's a good thing we don't have human power. Some big task that has to be done. We don't think we can do it. I was looking at the map on Thursday night. After we did some street sweep, I marked them off. You know, there's a really good chance we could be done. We will knock on every door in Westminster by the end of the year. Took us about 3 years. What are we going to do then, Pastor? Stephen would too. If you do it faster, if you do it better, it doesn't end. See, to get through the doubt, you have to worship. You have to worship. Faith. Acting, even though you don't think it'll be accomplished. That's how we worship. I don't think we can reach the world. No matter what you think. God told us that we had to. And He wasn't going to tell us that we had to do something we couldn't do. True worship leads to true disciples. Who worship true. Which leads to more disciples. True worship. Which leads to more disciples. True worship. When we prayed in Sunday school this morning, for those of you that were here, there's so much that we can do. You say, well, we're not the biggest church. You're not the biggest church. But if everybody was here, and I knew that everybody was going to be here, and listen, so-and-so can do this, and so-and-so can do this, and so-and-so can do this. There's a lot of social programs that we could do, that we could implement on a regular basis, that we could reach the community. But I don't know if you're going to be there. Listen, Brother Martin can't do it all. Especially right now, we got to take care of Mrs. Martin. He can't do it all. I can't do it all. Debbie can't do it all. But if we, listen, every part of the body of Christ, what fitly joined together. If I knew that you were going to be here, I could be like, okay, this is your job. Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, this is your job. I do my best not to overload you. One job. This is yours. Have a kids class. Have a reader. All of these, this is your job. Listen, I think we're doing a decent job. We could all be doing a better job. But listen, if I know that you're going to be here, if I know that you're going to be a good steward of power that God gave, we can do a lot of that. We've reached the neighborhoods and we've reached the nations. We actually have a successful church, successful Christian. But I do not say that we have a big church. We have a successful one. We want to go all kinds of big churches that aren't very successful. Go here to the main drag. There's probably the biggest church building. They do the things of God. successful. Every person having the proper steward of the power that God gave. I don't want the power. You've got God's power. I don't know why you wouldn't want it. To use it. Let's pray. Lord, we come before you this morning, Lord. We're thankful that you allowed us to come and gather and help us to be servants. Fit for your service. Help us to this week go out to the community, pass out tracts, leave tracts. Talk to our friends and our neighbors and our coworkers. Help us to be faithful in your service. Because as people see that we're faithful, they'll be intrigued and they'll start to listen to us, and eventually they'll come out and they'll learn and grow and be molded. They'll become faithful. And it's a snowball effect. See, we all say, well, we want the church to grow. We're not willing to put in the work. We're not willing to put in the effort. Actions speak louder than words. We don't have to worry about the power we've got. We just have to access it. As the piano begins to play, the Lord spoke to your heart. Come and do business with Him at the altar.